So, shall I start now? Okay, well, hello everybody. Thanks for coming today. We're going to do a real quick presentation. I have a lot of stuff to show you and it's going to go through very quickly. Give me the hi sign, Randy, if you can't hear me or if any sort of problem pops up. But in the meantime, I'm just going to plow through this. If you have any questions, normally I'm happy to have you interrupt me, but in this case, it's probably a lot easier if I just run through this quickly, and then you guys go ahead and ask the questions afterwards, and we'll have a chat. Okay, so I was asked to talk to you today a little bit about this row that we're doing from Africa to America that we're helping to sponsor, and to talk a little bit about what the rowers are seeing out there. So that's what we're going to talk about very briefly today. Just a quick introduction. My name is Sean Brillant. I work for the Canadian Wildlife Federation. I've spent most of my life looking at little creepy crawly things and hunting for animals in this world. Professionally or formally, my background training is in marine ecology and marine biology, and I've had the privilege to be able to spend a lot of time studying everything from snails and slugs to leatherback turtles and right whales off the Canadian coast. So this is just a very quick introduction from me. If you have questions about me, please feel free to ask questions about that afterwards. So getting right into this, what's this row all about? In case you don't know, so this is a group of 4 fellas who are rowing from Senegal in Africa over to Miami in the USA. They're rowing in a specially designed rowboat across the Atlantic Ocean over about 6,400 kilometers. To put that into perspective, here's our country, Canada. If you go across the country from Newfoundland right to BC, it's about 5,000 kilometers wide. So what they're doing is they're rowing across an ocean that is actually larger than our country. Let's talk a little bit about our country briefly. So here's Canada. Second largest country in the world. Most Canadians certainly know that, about 9 million kilometers squared in area. It's a very large country, lots of wildlife, lots of habitat. What people tend to forget, however, is that we're not only 9 million square kilometers of land, we are also 6 million square kilometers of ocean. Canada is responsible for this much ocean around our country as well. Nobody lives there, of course, and relatively speaking, few people work there or travel there, so it tends to be out of sight and out of mind. But in reality, a whole third of what Canada is in this world is actually ocean. And every country has some area around it that it's responsible for and that it can take advantage of within the oceans. These are what's called the exclusive economic zones, EEZs. So in addition to having a big ocean, Canada also has a large coastline. We have the largest coastline in the world, 240,000 kilometers of coastline. And when you put all these things together, despite the fact that we're such a large country, we are clearly an ocean nation as well. We are a nation that relies heavily on the ocean. We are a nation that has a large responsibility for looking after the ocean as well. So who owns the ocean is the next thing I want to just point out and talk to you about. This is a map of the world. The green is showing sort of land masses. The blue, I hope that turns out well, the blue that's sort of circling all of the land masses here, this is all of the exclusive economic zones of the world. What's important about this, or what's relevant about this, is the white space, because the white areas that are outside of these boundaries are what are called the high seas. They have no national jurisdiction. There is no country responsible for them, and this is over 60% of the ocean is what this accounts for. So this is a part of the ocean that people will fish in, that countries will fish in. They are obliged to follow specific rules that govern their country and so on, but in many ways this is a part of the ocean that nobody is responsible for, but which many of our wildlife species live in. A lot of the species that we have here in Canada that are a part of our wildlife heritage that live on our coasts also move and migrate quite a bit. So they will move into these high seas areas and they will become, they aren't exclusively Canadian wildlife. And we have to realize that and we have to recognize that. And that's a part of what this row is all about, is making that connection to the fact that the wildlife that we have here in Canada is a part of a global heritage. And in fact, we have a responsibility for looking after that and recognizing that the wildlife that live within our boundaries don't always live there, but can actually live in other parts of the world too. Where did I go? Here we go. So just as an aside, we have another large oceanic project on the go right now called the Great Canadian Turtle Race. So we've tagged leatherback turtles. These are these giant dinosaurs that live off of our coasts. I seem to be missing a picture of a dinosaur. But they come to Canadian waters to feed on these giant jellyfish every year. And what we did this past year in partnership with the Canadian Sea Turtle Network is we went and tagged a bunch of them while they were up here in Canada in this area in the yellow circle. And then for the last 5 or 6 months now, we've been tracking them, and these squiggly spaghetti lines that you see on the globe here are the pathways that the leatherback turtles have been traveling. The little gold stars indicate where each of the leatherback turtles are currently, and we've been sort of racing these turtles to see which one get to their nesting grounds first. The point of this, though, I just wanted to point out, is that this is another example of work that CWF is moving into to make people aware of the wildlife that exists here in Canada, but also exists out in the ocean and beyond in areas beyond our control. So just by way of comparison as well, this little line down here in the corner is where the rowers are right now. They've just passed the Cape Verde Islands and they're sort of rowing out, almost getting to the point where the leatherback turtles are. And just as an interesting note, we asked different groups to sort of sponsor and speak out on behalf of the different turtles. So we gave different groups different turtles. And amazingly, actually, this turtle right here is called Trekker, and it's the turtle that we gave to the Or Northwest group, which is currently only 600 kilometers south of the guys that are rowing out there right now. It's amazing coincidence. I don't know if they were planning to, the turtle decided to go over there and meet them or what, but I don't think we ever formally introduced them, but who knows how these turtles think. Anyway, if you're more interested in this project, I encourage you to go check out turtlerace.ca and you'll see a bit more information on it. But suffice it to say that interests for Canadian wildlife, particularly Canadian marine wildlife, require us to start looking at areas beyond Canada's boundaries to see what we can do for conservation. Okay, so one of the things I want to talk to you today is about what the rowers are seeing out there. And this is a grab that I just did from their Facebook site that I think explains a lot of it. And if you can't see it, I'll read it to you here. It says, this is a post from one of the guys. It says, horizon to horizon, everywhere you look, it feels like you're in the center of your own universe. So strange. And it's linked to this picture, which is an excellent picture showing the features that they're seeing out there. So what are they seeing out there? And this is a good description of what it is. We need to keep in mind how far they can see. Keep in mind that they are rowing across over 6,000 kilometers on a curved surface of a globe, like a little blue marble. So here they are, oh, well, pardon me. So assuming that there's no atmospheric distortion, understanding that the planet is curved and that they're rowing across a large part of the curve of this planet, just how far can they see to the horizon? If you're this little gold star down here in the corner, how far can you actually see? Here's Jordan sitting on the edge of the globe as he's rowing across the Atlantic Ocean, and if he looks straight out, he'll actually be able to see about 5 kilometers away in any direction, roughly speaking, taking into account distortion and how high above the water he is and so on. And that's it. The entire world that exists for them is 5 kilometers in any direction, and that's it. They're moving at about 4 or 5 kilometers an hour, so every hour they get to a new section of the ocean, but they never see more than about an hour away from themselves. And it looks flat, because as you look to the edge of the horizon, suddenly the Earth curves away from you and you can't see anything beyond that anyway. So the world does look flat. They can't see very far. This is one of my favorite comics. I don't know if you guys have seen this. Here's a little fella sitting on a desert island with a palm tree, and it says, Day 44, still stranded with nothing but flat, empty water as far as the eye can see. And most of us know this. I've thought about this a lot when I was a kid, but it's not really true, because you know that there's some fish in the water and so on. But if we look at the rest of the little cartoon, it gives a better picture of what actually is going on. And really what this is telling us is so much about what goes on in the world, and in particular in the ocean, is beyond our sight, beyond our understanding, and is very hard to understand everything that exists there. And to us, sitting at the surface on this little desert island suggests that there's nothing out there, nothing but water as far as the eye can see, but this is totally wrong. The fellows on the rowboat are discovering this as well, or probably were prepared for this and knew that this wasn't the case, but they're certainly experiencing it and hopefully delivering this type of message to people who are following them. So here's our planet, and I hope the first thing you notice as we sort of watch it, I assume it's moving for you, as soon as we watch it. It's mostly ocean, right? 70% of it is ocean, and you guys may know this. These guys are rowing across what is one of the largest habitats on our planet, which is the open ocean, and it's also known as the pelagic system. And this is one of the largest habitats on the planet, and it's one that very few people ever get to experience or recognize, even though it covers almost 3/4 of our planet. The ocean is not all the same, despite the fact of what they're seeing. It's very different. It's chopped up into lots of little pieces. First of all, it changes in depth. Here's a map of the Atlantic Ocean. Let me see if I can do something. Over here is Africa. Oh, look at that, I can draw a square. Over here is Africa, over here is North America and Florida. South America is down here in the corner. And they're rowing across the ocean. You can see that there is a difference in depth as they cross the ocean. So the ocean floor is roughly 3,000 or 4,000 meters deep, but in some areas it's much shallower than that, particularly when you get close to the coasts. And in other areas it's much deeper. And so this makes a lot of different habitats. Something else that divides the ocean up are the currents. The way that the ocean moves around the world, in all of the oceans. This is a map of the world that shows roughly the largest currents that are running through the oceans in the world. And you can see that the ocean is never really still, not in too many places, but it's actually moving and flowing all the time. These are images from NOAA, where they did some fine-scale modeling of the movement of waters up the coast of North America. It's called the Gulf Stream, this warm body of water. This is the eddies that are coming across from Africa and running into South America and flowing northward and feeding that Gulf Stream. But as the currents and as the ocean moves, it also moves animals, it moves food. More importantly, it moves temperature. So it can change temperature. So different parts of the ocean have different temperatures, and a lot of this is driven by the currents and the movement of the water. So the currents are going to chop up the ocean and make a variety of different habitats too. And finally, one of the most important things that makes the ocean not all the same but makes it different is light. The amount of light that gets into the water and penetrates the water is very important. Light drives much of the life on this planet, not all of it, but much of the life on this planet. But light also can't penetrate the ocean very much. Water tends to keep it out. This is a slice of the ocean showing different names for the different layers we give different parts of the ocean. The top one is called the epipelagic, and that goes down to 200 meters of depth, and then the mesopelagic and the bathypelagic and so on. What's really important to understand is that this top line here at 200 meters at the bottom of the epipelagic, that's about as deep as light can penetrate. Light can't go any deeper than that. There is almost no plant life below that. So there is no primary productivity that's occurring beyond this. And this causes the ocean also to be broken up into different pieces and different habitats. Different animals are adapted to live in different parts, and they have to have specialized tools or ways of living so that they can adapt to these types of conditions. So definitely all different. So what are the rowers seeing out there? Let's talk and look at some of the more interesting things. What are they actually seeing out there besides flat water everywhere that they can look? Well, they saw a leatherback turtle. They recently posted a video. This is a grab from a video of a leatherback turtle swimming around underneath their boat, so we know that they're out there. We know it's not one of the ones that we tagged in our Great Canadian Turtle Race because there is no box on its back, but it's certainly a leatherback turtle. They also report when they were cleaning off their boat that they have barnacles growing on their boat that have attached to their boat and started growing to them. And these are very small. They probably arrived as larvae, which are almost microscopic, but have looked for a firm surface to attach to, and they've attached to the boat and started growing. So clearly there's barnacles out there as well, and it's great that these guys have noticed that. They've seen flying fish. These are fish that live in the open ocean, move very quickly, and when they want to go even quicker, they'll actually leap out of the water and spread their very large pectoral fins and sort of glide along the water surface in an attempt to escape predators and so on. And they've seen these. They've also seen lots of birds, and they've also seen dolphins as well, lots of dolphins. And out there, this is the world of these. These are the pelagic animals, the animals adapted to living in this type of environment, fast swimming, surface dwelling, looking for food, and curious as well. They've seen jellyfish. This is a Portuguese man-o-war, or a blue bottle in some countries they call it. simply a jellyfish, a symbiotic organism that floats and lives on the surface, catching small animals with its tentacles. They've noticed a few of these. They've noticed billfish or sailfish of some sort. This is just a photo from NOAA. These are large pelagic fish with long rostrums, with long structures on the fronts of their faces, sort of on their nose, that will hunt down other fish in the pelagic system. And they've also shown a video where they've seen some pilot whales swim around their boat in the area before taking off and going looking elsewhere. So they've seen all of these animals so far. They've also seen some that I don't know what it is. They found this one that they pulled up on one of the water sampling ropes that they've been using to take water samples. They pulled this up apparently and took this fuzzy picture of it, and they weren't sure what it is. I've been trying to figure out what it is. It kind of looks like a tunicate of something, but I'm not actually sure. Certainly a lot of invertebrates living out there, and smaller animals that are a lot less noticeable than some of these other species that I've been showing you, the tunicates and the dolphins and the whales and so on. The tunicates and barnacles often tend to get forgotten. They did see this. This is also an image of a large fish that they saw swimming around their boat. It's called a mahi-mahi. It's also called a dolphin fish, also called a dorado. This is a better picture of it. It's a beautiful fish, pelagic, oceanic fish that hunts other fish in this area too. And they caught a glimpse of one of these things. It was a great. They've got a video up on this as well if you want to go take a look at it. So I just want to talk a little bit about what they might see out there if they keep going. I sort of had a list of what they might find before they left. I gave them a list of what they might see, and I'm pleased to see that they've seen a lot of them. There's a number of other things that they may see and run into. One of which that I haven't mentioned yet is sharks. Pelagic sharks, particularly this is a blue shark, are very common out there. Nothing to be afraid of. They're just another predatory fish out there. They're not looking for humans or anything. But a common pelagic species that will be out there. Another one, of course, is the whales. This is a picture of a blue whale near the coast, of course. But these are large, oceanic, ocean-going marine mammals. And if there's one in the area, chances are they're going to see it, although they can be surprisingly sneaky as well. Sunfish. This is an ocean sunfish, a strange-looking creature, a strange-looking fish. It lives in the open ocean, in the pelagic system. It comes to the coasts once in a while too. It doesn't make sense how it can swim, but it's actually a fairly strong swimmer, and it's something that I wouldn't be surprised if they run into as well, particularly as they get closer to the coast. And then, of course, there is beautiful little creatures like this. This is a tiny little nudibranch. It's only about 2 or 3 centimeters long, called a glaucus. And this is a snail that blows bubbles and floats on the surface of the ocean. These two things float on the surface of the ocean. They're very small, and they tend to feed on jellyfish like the Portuguese man-o-war that I showed you earlier. They haven't reported seeing these yet, but again, I wouldn't be surprised if they do see them, if they have the time and the ability to notice what's sort of in the water. They're noticing, of course, these large animals, which are the most easiest ones to notice because they're busy trying to survive and get across the ocean. But when they have an opportunity to take a chance and look closer at the water around them, they're going to find that there's a lot more in it than they may realize. So, just to summarize, what are the rowers seeing out there? What is the ocean to them? Well, it looks flat, but it's not. We know that now. We know it's curved, of course, but it appears to be flat to them, but it's not. Pardon me. It appears to be all one habitat when they look out into the surface and they see just oceanic water everywhere, but it's not. It's not all just one habitat. It is many, many habitats. In some ways, it appears to be lifeless, and I'm being a bit unfair here because these guys have actually seen a lot of animals in this area, so clearly it's not lifeless. Thank you. But it's not. There is a lot of life. And the other thing that they may be thinking that often comes to mind when many people have traveled the ocean and seen these things is they think it's beyond anything that we can do to affect them. But it's not. We actually have great effects on the ocean, and it's something that we need to keep in mind. That's all I wanted to talk to you about right now, is about sort of what these rowers are seeing and what they're experiencing out there. I'm going to do a couple of other webinars maybe next week as well, one of which I'm going to talk about in more detail the wildlife and habitats of the ocean and talk a little bit more about them. And I'm also going to talk about the effects that we have on the ocean and the things that we can do to protect the ocean, even when you're in a challenging position like you guys where you don't have an ocean handy or nearby. One thing I just wanted to give you too, this is a description from Jesse Ozabel, who from a book on the census of marine life, who sort of described the ocean this way. He said, the ocean is where extreme is normal and where rare is common. And I really like that idea. I think that's a good description for what these guys are seeing and experiencing out there. It worked out very well. So that's all I have to say for you guys about what these guys are experiencing out there. A very quick little talk to give you a sense of what's out there and what they're looking at. I'm happy to answer any questions now if you guys have any. My name and email are right there if anyone wanted to send me an email. And it sounds like you've unmuted, so maybe we can have a chat now. Thanks.
Okay, Sean, I have two sets of students actually who are working on their projects, their Or Northwest projects. So they have some questions they'd like to ask. One is on endangered, and I'll let Riley ask the question. Endangered species. So why don't you ask him? Go ahead. No, you just ask the question.
What are endangered species in Atlantic?
Where are they? Yeah, where are endangered species in the Atlantic?
What?
Oh.
What are endangered species?
Okay. Well, there's different ways of classifying endangered species. There are endangered species almost everywhere in the Atlantic. Most of the species that are endangered are the large species. The bigger the species, the more endangered they are. So things like blue whales, leatherback turtles, right whales, things like tuna are considered endangered by the IUCN, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature. Some species of swordfish and sailfish are considered endangered as well. These tend to be the species that we either exploited and we hunted, or that they were sort of in the way while we were hunting for other things as well. So mostly the large organisms and large species in the Atlantic, that is where they're going to be. Not that they're all endangered, but that is what the endangered species are, and these are the ones that are most commonly known. Turtles, many of the turtles, if not all, several species of whales, several species of large fish, and even some species of small fish. And then there are seabirds that are threatened by our activities as well.
So Sean, maybe I'll have Riley send you an email and we can maybe communicate by that. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Now we have to use a bit of a Jim voice, okay? Not little mouse voices.
Yeah, no, they do announcements in the morning.
Okay, perfect.
Introduce yourself. I'm Charisma.
You wouldn't have heard that, Chris.
I'm Charisma. What kind of species, of turtles, are there in the Atlantic Ocean?
Ooh, what is this, a test? Gee, okay, there are, let me see, I think there's 4 species of marine turtle in the Atlantic. There are leatherback turtles, which are the largest ones, loggerheads, there are green turtles, there are Kemp's Ridley's turtles, and olive Ridley's turtles, and there are hawksbill's turtles. I guess there may be 6 species of turtles in the Atlantic. Now that's in the whole Atlantic Ocean I'm talking here, because several of those species are exclusively only in the warm waters. In Canada, really, we only get leatherback turtles, and occasionally we get green turtles that are far offshore.
She got 5.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Another question anywhere? You got one over here somewhere? Yes, no? All right, well, Sean, based upon that and my lack of a voice, as you know, I'd like to thank you. It was wonderful giving us ideas of what's going on. And of course, we know Tuesday of next week, we've got another one coming up. We're very interested to see what we're going to get there.
Yep, perfect. We'll do another short one then. Real pleasure. Thanks very much for having me in your classroom.
You're welcome, Sean. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, address, SEANB at.
And it'll be the same as on the card. CWF.
Yeah.